ayayere uyo uko kuno apo pano mamuona kere nai.
Right, 5 October 2021, and I'm joined by my usual guest, Dr. Feddious Mutenheri. How are you, doctor?
I'm very well, Gambakwe. How are you? And very good evening to your viewers.
Thank you very much, doctor. And I'm very, very happy to have you back today to have a discussion on a very important topic that has gripped Zimbabwe over the past week. And this is with regards to the call by the MDCs of Douglas Mwonzora, which was published in the Newsday. I don't know if you saw it. The publication said, and I think I need to display it here on the screen. So the publication says MDCs pushes for poll cancellation, which means they are pushing for the cancellation of the by-elections and the 2023 elections. In your view, is this justified?
Well, thank you very much, Gambakwe, for that question. Definitely not justified, especially coming from MDCs, a party that that everyone today knows, and that it has been erected by the state, that it has gotten advantages over the real MDC alliance, you know, and has been propped up over time. And now when they say this, they sing from the same hymn book as ZANU-PF, which is saying the same thing. And for me, the reasons that they are giving in that, if we are to go by that article, that firstly, they are saying there is need rather for dialogue. And one would ask, where does the MDCs fall within the dialogue spectrum? Because as far as we know from the 2018 election, any serious dialogue has to be held between the MDC alliance, which had more votes, and ZANU-PF. Those are the two that had a dispute. And the second reason that they are giving for the postponement of this election is that we would rather you know, give I mean, because of COVID regulations, and that argument is a dead argument, because from our neighbors in Zambia and in Malawi, we have seen that it is possible, and recently in South Africa, we have seen that it is very possible to hold a COVID-19 safe elections, and that has happened. And thirdly, the other reason that they are giving is that without reforms, it is a waste of time to have elections. And one would then say, ZANU-PF has not had the appetite for reforms anyway. And even if you were to give them another 5 years, what reforms are they willing to implement if they failed to implement reforms ever since 2017? Now, this brings me to the aspect that, why then are they asking for this question? Is it, I mean, for the postponement of the election? Are they justified to say that? One can only perceive a fear that whatever they had started to build as a political party will soon crumble, because the electorate will put them in their rightful place. And secondly, you know, it is to go against the constitutional requirement of the Constitution of Zimbabwe that elections must be held when, as and when they are due. And they are due in 2023. And by the way, the by-elections are already overdue, and one wonders why they have not been held. So it's not justified in a nutshell.
Okay, so I've heard what you said, but I want to play you a little clip, and then I'll ask you the next question.
Okay.
So before you can even go for election, the elections have already failed because there is mistrust on the election process. So when we had this reflection, then the proposal was, why don't we take a break on this competitive route and come up with a period, a buffer period of a period where the nation can rest from this competitive mode. And of course, the idea of rest being taken from Hebrews, that's where the idea of Sabbath was then couched.
Right. So, Doc, I played you this clip because this is not the first time there has been a call to postpone elections, the 2023 elections. There was an initiative by the Zimbabwe heads of Christian denominations in 2019, where they approached both Nelson Chamisa and President Mnangagwa with a proposal that elections must be postponed because of, they gave 7 reasons for that, the postponement. They also proposed a national transitional authority, and it was rejected by both sides. The current proposal by the MDCT is that Pollard should be used as the foundation for dialogue, after which there could possibly be a government of national unity. Do you see the similarities between these two initiatives, both in terms of the reasons and the structure of what comes after?
Well, Gambakwe, I think this stems from really what I can call lazy thinking by some of what are supposed to be eminent members of our society. On what basis are they calling for that? Because the basis of the election in Zimbabwe is derived from a constitutional requirement, which says elections are supposed to be held as and when they are due. So that alone, that reason alone, which tells you that there is need to go to the constitution and say, what does it say? So that debate, firstly, it falls off. Secondly, you talk of Pollard, and I want to put it to you that unless Zimbabwe has a real and genuine dialogue in which the current president and the government engages in what is a serious dialogue which involves Nelson Chamisa and the MDC alliance, anything that would be talked of as let's get a break, let's dialogue, is not helpful. It is totally not the way forward, because today we have a huge constituency that voted for Nelson Chamisa, who today would only want to see this dispute resolved by an election, and which it should be. So for anyone to sit in a chair somewhere there and say, let's take a break, what break do they want? In fact, during that interregnum, what are we doing? What are we doing that will change things which we haven't done so far? Probably I would want those reasons spelled out to me, and we deal with reason by reason. So for me, I'll go back to the first statement that this is the type of lazy thinking or dishonest kind of thinking when people come and say such things.
Okay, let me answer your question.
Okay.
Let's deal with the issues that you are raising.
Mm-hmm.
There's been no reforms since the day when the 2018 elections were held. Chamisa has said he's going to, he has said the elections in 2023 are going to be disputed. So what is going to happen is, come 2023, we are going to continue again in dispute mode. When Morgan Tsvangirai was there was a dispute. Chamisa came, there's a dispute. 2023, there's going to be a dispute. That is why the Zimbabwe heads of Christian denominations, they suggested a 7-year Sabbath where there was no contestation. The MDCT is saying, since there are no reforms, it's better to dialogue and come up with a structure that is not a winner-take-all structure, but with President Mnangagwa as the president. So
do you
that is
okay,
the
go
reason.
ahead.
The in terms of the reforms, the absence of reforms.
Okay, let me tell you now. You know, when you talk of dialogue, it takes two to tango anyway. And I'm saying, does even ZANU-PF or the ZANU-PF government, are they willing to have a genuine dialogue of that nature? One, and if they do, then they must start to show that they are willing to do it by accommodating the real opposition, which they faced in 2018. Accommodate their concerns, accommodate what they think would be a very genuine dialogue. And having come to that, you would realize that ZANU-PF, if you read the Herald of the 4th of October, if you look at the officials of ZANU-PF, they are not even talking of reforms or all those things that the heads of the churches are saying, or what the MDCT are saying. They are just saying the president deserves 5 more years. And you know what they are saying? Why they are saying he deserves them? They are saying because he needs to complete the projects that he has started. They are saying because he needs to complete the vision that he has started. And one then asks, what dialogue are you talking about? Is ZANU-PF willing to come to a table where there is genuine dialogue? That's where we should start our discussion. And if so, then they must be seen to be doing exactly that. So as at the moment, MDCT is just singing from ZANU-PF's hymn book, and everybody out there knows why they are doing that. It is because they fear the judgment by the people at the polls. It is because they know themselves that they need to buy time, enjoy what the perks of being included in the current government will bring to them. And by doing so, it will be illegal, it will be unconstitutional. And therefore, all these reasons, like I'm saying, are coming out of people with lazy thinking as to what should happen in Zimbabwe. The election, a constitutionally arranged election, is what will solve any problem that Zimbabwe faces today. That is my take.
Even if there's no reforms, is Chamisa going to win? Because I know you want Chamisa to win. Is Chamisa going to win?
Those are your words. Those are your words.
Okay, let's say right now Chamisa enters the election without these reforms. Is he going to win?
Look, right now the only thing that I can, as piece of advice, I can say is to the MDC alliance is to ramp up, which they have been trying to do anyway, to ramp up the need for those reforms, because there is still ample time to have those reforms. That's why I'm saying we can talk from the sidelines and say we need reforms first before we get to the election. But I'm saying, is the current government willing to get into that discussion first and foremost? Remember, Jonathan Moore, at some time while he was in the same government, said, as a government, how can we reform ourselves from power? And I'm sure that is the internal thinking within ZANU-PF. And once you bring the issue of reforms, are they willing to do it anyway? So the only way, I think, and the only strategy that is there is we go for the elections, and the opposition has to put up an unprecedented campaign in which they will do all and everything in order to scuttle any machinations to rig an election, whether they are reforms or not. So for me, I think the minimum basic laws that we have, if the MDC alliance and the opposition, the real opposition, use those, there is a possibility to win with a landslide even. But to expect that ZANU-PF will then come and say, yes, today we are coming to reform the media, we are coming to reform the electoral system, we are coming to reform this and that, that is a pipe dream.
Okay, so the reforms won't happen, and it's better to just go in the way it is. If something goes wrong,
I'm not saying the reforms. I'm not saying the reforms should not happen. I am saying extending the period or postponing the elections will not guarantee that reforms will happen, because like you have admitted yourself, ever since the time of Trangirai, the issue of reforms has been on the table. And has ZANU-PF acceded to that? No. But what I'm saying is that the opposition, particularly the MDC alliance, should ramp up now. Diplomatic offensive, the masses and everybody, and put the issue of those reforms on the table and force ZANU-PF to come to the table so that those reforms can be done without extending the time or postponing an election. This election is constitutionally due by 2023, I'm sure around July or August, and they should be done as and when they are due. That is my thinking about that issue.
Okay. Let's go then to the bigger question.
All right.
Is this election going to solve the problem in Zimbabwe? If Chamisa loses this election, is he going to accept the loss?
That is not on Chamisa. In fact, this so-called new dispensation came with a conglomerate of promises when they came in. One, it was that Zimbabwe was open for business. By saying that alone, we thought it was open for democracy as well. Secondly, when they came in, they said they wanted to restore the legacy of the liberation struggle. The basis of the liberation struggle was one man, one vote, was to make sure that Zimbabweans were free in the land of their birth. That was the first thing. And so it's upon the new dispensation to make sure that they provide such an environment. Remember, and it is not Nelson Chamisa or the opposition that should make that. It is only for the opposition to keep on piling pressure and make sure that they come to the table and implement those. But then, whether Chamisa will accept or not, it is up to the state, it is up to the government to organize a truly democratic, free, fair, and credible election. And it is not Chamisa's problem. Chamisa's problem is to operate in a free environment in which he has to pronounce an alternative to the current government, in which he has to, to construct in the minds of the voter what kind of a Zimbabwe he thinks should be built. Not that, because he's not in government, it's not his duty to then implement those reforms. It's the government of the day that should do that. And I think people have always had a misconstrued a view of what the opposition can and should do. The opposition is, with all intents, trying to make sure that the environment or the space in Zimbabwe is conducive for democracy by bringing out an alternative to say, where ZANU-PF is behaving this way, we will behave in an opposite way. Where ZANU-PF is implementing these policies, we are going to implement these policies. Where ZANU-PF is going command on everything, we are going to be a social democratic movement. So look, whether Chamisa will accept or dispute, it's not his problem. It is the problem of the state that have they put up a credible environment for an election, and that is the starting point.
Okay, I just want to give you another quick clip, and then we'll go to the next question.
Mwonzora mdenga, munanga kwa mdenga, batanisa, roera pasi, komichi mdenga, Mwonzora mdenga, Feddious mdenga, bundo mdenga, kupi mdenga, batanisa, roera pasi.
Kupe mdenga. Do you see the kind of opposition that we have? Do you think these guys can offer anything in Zimbabwe, like a new Zimbabwe?
Why not? That is a political space. Political parties by their nature when they are on political podiums, they say such things as banter, as banter. And in terms of the opposition, this is obviously one of the slogan, probably trying to evoke within their supporters, that kind of competitive spirit, to say these are the people that are fighting against us. And what are we going to do with them at the election? Let's bury them at the election. Here, I think it makes all the more exciting. You see people in the background laughing. It has to happen in politics. Those are moments of laughter and political slogans like this one. I think I don't see anything really wrong, because they
Okay.
do not incite.
What I'm trying to say is, if something major doesn't happen between now and 2023, the MDC alliance of Chamisa has not done anything special so that they can win. Whereas the government of President Mnangagwa has done a lot. They have been out there communicating their position. They've been implementing projects. They've done a lot in the communities. The structure of ZANU-PF is strong. And as I was saying, the electoral field has not shifted. No reforms have taken place. It's almost impossible for MDC Alliance to win, or MDC Chamisa to win under the current circumstances. Which is why I'm thinking, if MDCT is saying they're going into Poland, they could possibly be having a better strategy than just walking into an election that you're going to lose.
Gabagwe, I'm sorry to say, probably also the 1 week you went to Zimbabwe, you got a wrong idea of saying, or of coming up with that conclusion that ZANU-PF is strong and it's doing projects and therefore come up with your conclusion that the MDC has done nothing. I think it's only a blind analyst who will not see what the opposition has been doing. And you can underestimate them at your own peril. Their citizen convergence for change and how they have hyped it. One can look down upon it, but it is really appealing to the young people out there. And when you talk of ZANU-PF projects, I think let's not conflate again what the government is supposed to be doing. For instance, what it is doing to maintain the Smith roads, Ian Smith's roads, to start to move the Smith Rhodesian trains, and the few things that you are talking about, which necessarily they should have been doing. You see, let's not have a tendency of what an abusive husband tells their wife, that when they beat them up, then one day they wake up with flowers. Those flowers were supposed to have been given anyway on a nice day. She deserves them. Now, ZANU-PF, after battering everybody, and then they construct a two-way road, and you want to tell me that those are projects that makes ZANU-PF a strong party? I beg to differ. And look here, I've once discussed with you to say, how much leverage, how much space does the MDC has or have to do those projects without inviting violence or a very dangerous response from those in power? So when we make an analysis of this, let's be aware of those things. But look, I agree with you that yes, the electoral field has not shifted. I mean, it is still tilted in favor of the ruling party today, which is what I said. If the new dispensation is truly a new dispensation, it is incumbent upon them to make things right. Zimbabwe cannot continue on this trajectory. Generations and generations of Zimbabweans right now have lost their livelihoods. There are children out there who are Zimbabweans who do not know their own country, who will only hear about Zimbabwe as folktale. And it is upon this so-called new dispensation to make it right, give Zimbabweans an opportunity to make decisions, to live in a democratic country of their own and see the better days of that country. And surely that cannot be solved by continuously harping about the good things that ZANU-PF is doing without pointing at how they have failed. Look at the healthcare in Zimbabwe. It is totally collapsed. Actually, Zimbabwe's healthcare, if you go, you will find that its infrastructure is so dilapidated to a point where in hospitals you lack very, very basic things out there. And then you want to tell me that there is something strong coming out there. Our education system, we used to be the pride of Africa and the world, but we are fast deteriorating. Ask how many teachers have gone out there. Look, we need to give today's generation, particularly of the young people, an opportunity to choose whoever they want to lead them. And okay,
So,
go
Doc,
ahead.
I'm hearing you, but I think you are speaking from someone who has not been in Zimbabwe for a long, long time. And this is the problem with many people who are in the diaspora. They were last in Zimbabwe 4 or 5 years ago. And when they talk about the healthcare of Zimbabwe, they don't know what's on the ground. When did you last go to Zimbabwe?
I've been in Zimbabwe 1.5 years back.
Yes, that's why I'm saying you are missing the point. The Zimbabwe that you are talking about is not the Zimbabwe that is there. The kind of healthcare facilities that are there in Harare now, if you go to the CMAS, PSMAS, the private and semi-government facilities, they will shock you. They are very, very high class and high standards. There's nothing that is not there now in Zimbabwe.
There you have it. There you have it. By your own admission, you are saying the private and semi-private. Here I'm talking about public facilities which are provided by government. That's what I'm talking about.
That's what I mean.
And how
that's
many,
what I mean.
how
Doc,
many
Doc, let me challenge you.
How many Zimbabweans can access private healthcare today?
Let me challenge you, Doc.
Yes.
Let me challenge you. I want to challenge you to go to Parenyatwa when you live here. Let's say you one day go to Zimbabwe. The hospital is clean. Their cancer unit is the best in the country. People are being referred from all the other units to the one at Parenyatwa. They may not have probably the top-notch equipment, but if you compare Parenyatwa UBH with any hospital, public hospital in South Africa, they're at par. Ever since COVID came, these hospitals have been doing a lot. So the problem that we have is
Gambakwe. On that note, look here. I'm not sitting here and trying to deconstruct whatever good that can come from my own country, Zimbabwe. And when you talk about Zimbabwe, don't think we do not have family in Zimbabwe. At Parenyatwa you talk about, don't think we do not have family. People who work in there on a daily basis. And once again, in your attempt to portray a good picture, do not fall into a trap of paying a blind eye to reality. And the reality, Gambakwe, is there for everyone to see. And statistics are there. Statistics are there. Zimbabwe today ranks number 26. 26 from below out of 187. 26 from last in terms of the poverty ranking. And you want to tell me that we have a best cancer section out there? Gambakwe, what are you talking about? Gambakwe, I want us to be truly honest so that even the government of the day should realize that I don't want to be in government and be told what I want to hear. I want to be told those hard facts and deal with that. And Gambakwe, I don't want you to sit there and tell all Zimbabweans out there and say that we have the best healthcare system. How many of our own government ministers get healthcare at the same Parirenyatwa you are talking about? How many of them are health tourists to South Africa, to Asia? How many of them? Gambakwe, unless we confront that kind of situation that we face today, then we can be talking reality. I, for one, want to talk very good about Zimbabwe, but I cannot talk lies and say Zimbabwe has the best healthcare when it is not there. So, look, I appreciate you for speaking well about your country, which I think I'm doing. Remember, when you see what needs to be corrected, it doesn't mean you are against. And people in the diaspora are not against anything. All they are doing is to point out at things that need to be fixed. And they must not be viewed as enemies. They must not be viewed as people who do not have knowledge. And if you think knowing Zimbabwe is only when you stay in there, then you are wrong. So I put it to you that there is a lot there that needs to be fixed, Gambakwe. And that can be fixed, firstly, when we correct our politics and we start to talk about giving Zimbabweans a fair chance at electing the leaders of their choice. And the government of the day put in place the proper environment for that election, rather than playing the cat and mouse game that let's extend probably, and then we hope that there will be reforms. Why not put them today? I think let's be having an honest discussion about our country, knowing very well that both me and our country.
Okay, so Doc, I think this is a long discussion. It's a very emotional discussion for many people, and I've handled this discussion a number of times. But it's out there. There's the discussion that maybe there should not be elections in 2023. Maybe the by-elections should be postponed for good through a dialogue process in Poland.
Gambakwe, something happened to your sound. Something happened to your sound.
Okay, just give me a second, and then we'll sort this out. Let's give this a short break.
Uko kuno apo pano mamuona kere nai anovura meso anovura nzeve anokaya marigi
Right, Doc, how's that? Are you still able to hear me or not?
Now I can hear you clear.
Okay, fantastic. I think I got hacked by some guys here, some clever guys. There are some guys who know how to hack me, and I'm still trying to find out how I can fix this issue. Okay, so Doc, as I was saying, this is a big issue, and what I want to do is next time I go to Zimbabwe, I want to invite you, me and you, we go together, because what I want you to understand, and what I want most Zimbabweans to understand, is that the problems in Zimbabwe, they cannot be fixed in one day, but there's a lot happening. The Zimbabwe that you know, or that you think you know, is not that Zimbabwe that is there now. And I don't know how to explain it to someone who has not seen what I see when I walk in Zimbabwe, especially in terms of health services, availability of products in the market, the lifestyles of people. The only way you can understand is if you go into Zimbabwe and see for yourself, especially if you've got money. Of course, someone who doesn't have money, they're going to struggle. But if you're coming from Botswana, if you're coming from South Africa, and you're going into Zimbabwe, you will live the life that you are living right now in your country where you live. If you go to the hotel, you are going to have 5-star service. There's nothing different about Zimbabwe compared to any of the other countries that we have.
You are talking
us.
like you remind me, I'm a student of history of a certain queen called Mary Antoinette. She was the wife to some, I think to Napoleon, or is it Louis the 18th, who told people that if they cannot afford bread, let them buy cake. Look, a desirable Zimbabwe is where all Zimbabweans from all walks of life can enjoy their lives, not only for those that have money, not only for those that can afford, but a Zimbabwe in which there are safety nets, even for those who are poor, even for those that cannot afford. Do we have that today? There is nothing. In about 2 weeks back, we saw pictures of people stranded at formerly Copacabana or something like that, showing what kind of transport wars are there. We saw recently when schools were opening, we saw teachers crying. They are getting literally peanuts. Basically, I saw even one government official apparently, the arrogance of power, saying those that cannot afford to go to school, we hope by then they will be able to borrow money to go there. Insensitive kind of statements that were being said. And you talk of healthcare. How many people are dying out there without being able to access that healthcare, Gambakwe? So I'm not saying if there are improvements, they can be commended, but are we having a trickle down to the general person out there, which comes to the point that there is need for policy reforms which cater for everyone in Zimbabwe, in which any hardworking Zimbabwe must be able to wake up and earn a decent life without thinking of politics. And I don't want you to take me around Harare and then show me 1 or 2 places. I want a comprehensive research which tells me that the standard of living of people in Zimbabwe, that tells me that the quality of life of an average and ordinary Zimbabwean has improved because of the policies that are in there. And that when that comes, it is not going to be announced on television. It will be seen. It speaks nyama. Samson nyama inonaka inotaura yoga. That's what will happen, Gambakwe. And by saying this, I am only referring to our question which we have in front of us. Is Mwonzora justified to call for 2023 elections postponement? And I'm saying no. Only at the election can such issues be solved. And I think the discussion should be, let's create an environment which will make sure that every Zimbabwean domiciled in Zimbabwe and in the diaspora can cast their vote and choose the leader of their choice. That is what the liberation struggle was fought for. And have we enjoyed that so far? No. And that's why I think I won't entertain the lazy thinking of postponement of an election until such a time when there is a proper dialogue by all Zimbabweans. And when people who are supposed to be at that table come through a comprehensive dialogue in which there is consensus and say, what do we need to do? And in fact, in fact, to just divert a little, if such a dialogue has to bring out a postponement, it cannot be a postponement of an election which only caters for the current government only. That's where probably we go to a transitional authority, because once you come to such an agreement, then you have to look at a transitional authority which overlooks the state while we solve those issues we think are sticking points to having that election. And so, Gambakwe, there is a lot, and I'm telling you today that Zimbabweans, whether in the diaspora or in Zimbabwe, are not dull, not to know what needs to be fixed about their country. And even those in power today, in as much as they may want to hear those voices which praise sing, they know what is at the heart of the crisis in Zimbabwe. And only until we confront it with honesty, I am telling you that we will be like the Israelites who wandered in the wilderness for 40 years in a distance which they could have spent less than a week probably, but they spent 40 years, which is what we are doing. And it is why is that so? It is
Okay.
because of people
let me answer you, Doc.
Mm-hmm.
The problem that we have from the opposition parties, and remember, I've worked very, very closely with the opposition parties, is that they do not have a broad understanding of the problems in Zimbabwe. They also don't understand the challenges, the deep challenges that are there in fixing the Zimbabwean economy. Firstly, in all what we've said today, you have said the problem. Sorry, I don't know what is happening. Okay, let's take another quick break. Right, Doc, are you hearing me again?
I can hear you, but your voice is quite subdued.
Okay, I'm getting all these hacks.
You are back.
Okay.
You are back now.
I'm getting these hacks from my friends in the MDC. They're hacking me. They know how to hack me. So I'll have to keep on. It makes me laugh though, but
I doubt they will do that.
I know a few. They've been hacking me for a while now. So
I don't make
unsubstantiated. I know how to fix the problem. I'll fix it next time. They won't be able to do it. But anyway, what I'm saying is, I don't think the opposition understands the deep problems that are there in Zimbabwe, and I don't think they understand the impact on a future government of not fixing the problem. The problem that I'm saying to you is the issue of sanctions. Zimbabwe's problems are not coming from internal issues. They're coming from the sanctions that are there on Zimbabwe. And if you are looking at President Mnangagwa's performance, if there were no sanctions, he would have done a lot more in terms of economy, in terms of fixing the infrastructure, in terms of addressing all these problems you're talking about. They're very minor if there are no sanctions. The other issue is also when people raise issues like the postponement of the elections, the MDC alliance of Chamisa does not address these issues at a deep level. They just address it at a technical level and not at a political level, which is where I'm trying to get these guys to understand that you cannot look at this technically. You have to look at it politically. If the environment is the way it is, and you already admitted that this environment is skewed, then you don't just sit back and say, I'll go to the election. And I think that portion we haven't answered for our audience. Well,
you raised two issues, quite very important. And the first one, you are accusing the opposition of not understanding the deep, what you call the deep and underlying problems that Zimbabwe face, and you mentioned sanctions. I think I don't want to take you back into history because I know I will go through as to how the problem we have now started. But just to go over it quickly, I think when the new dispensation came in, never had I seen a government that had goodwill from Zimbabweans themselves, even those who were sitting on the fence. They had goodwill. They had goodwill with the Western countries, unlike people. I mean, even the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom itself was willing to work with the new dispensation, and this we know from what we have read, and the overtures we have seen them making towards. And the president at one time was invited to Davos, which we have not seen under President Mugabe. And at some point, we had people like Chris Mutangwa coming out and saying, you know, Robert Mugabe was just accusing sanctions. Why should we accuse sanctions? The president himself went on to say, we are not going to be constrained by sanctions, and we cannot blame sanctions for what we can do for ourselves. But no sooner had they said that, and they came to the into the realities of power, did they start to turn back on those things? What started to happen? The violence, there was a resurgence in violence, in the abuses of people's rights. And the basis of those sanctions, as far as I know, because again, these are placed by other countries on Zimbabwe, was that those countries were not happy with how the government of the day was treating its own people. And for me, in as much as I don't want sanctions to be there, I honestly think that the ball is in our court as Zimbabweans, as the government, to say, why don't we remove those things that other countries see in us? Why don't we remove them? Why do, like, for instance, when we postpone elections, and it is going to create discord, it is going to affect our economy, I'm telling you today. And what is it going to do? It will mean, again, we are backtracking on the democratic rights of Zimbabweans. Are we not putting sanctions on ourselves? Do people still have the freedom of speech in Zimbabwe? I will ask you that question. Can't we address those things? It is within ourselves. It is within the government of the day to look. Zambia, within the 1 month that they have chosen a new leader, look at what goodwill they have. Look at what changes have come to Zambia. Is spoken of as one of, uprising. I feel so jealous. I really feel touched, because Zimbabwe used to be far better above all these countries. But look here what we are discussing. Can't we have a government that can fix all those things? If HH is doing it in 1 month and he has goodwill with everybody, why can't we do it? Who then, Gambakwe, understands better the underlying issues that are troubling Zimbabwe more than the opposition? Do not be one-sided in the way you view things. Look, the second thing that you were talking about, did you talk about, I'm sure you talked about the question of the reforms. I think I've answered that. That again, I put it squarely on the government of the day to say, fix them, fix those things. The government is there to fix those things. And when they fix them, let's see the goodwill that they have. I think they have themselves to blame for what is happening, because everybody, the whole country came out, so to speak, on the night of the coup, because people were euphoric about change. People really wanted something different. But the question is, has the government lived up to those expectations which people had on them? Has the government lived up to those expectations which the international community, which wants to help, has put on them? I think no. And look, when you say, does the opposition understand or not, Please, let's look at all the dynamics of all those things. Gamba.
Okay, Doc, I think let's bring this to an end. And I want to have a chat with you on the sanctions in depth, because obviously the time that I gave you to talk about this issue is very small. This month, I think this is the month when the whole of Africa is going to be coming up against the sanctions in Zimbabwe. The sanctions pain me a lot when I see the suffering that other people are going through, which people are blaming on government, which I think is coming from sanctions. So I think we need to have a day when we talk about sanctions and whether they are justified or not. Because in my opinion, Zimbabwe is not in a place where they should be under sanctions. So I think let me give you another day. We have a proper discussion on them very, very soon.
True, Gambakwe. I think it's an issue that we can have. I really want that discussion, because what we need is to have an honest discussion about it. Well, that Africa will rally behind Zimbabwe for sanctions, while on one side it looks like a commendable move. I will tell you today, Gambakwe, that you do not address sanctions by way of marching, by way of rallying people to say, hey, come and see what is happening in my house. You address things within your own country. And I really want us to have that discussion, Gambakwe, in future. So today, I know we may not be able to complete it, but I will tell you that ourselves, we can fix this issue. And we may not need even to look to America to say remove Zidera, or the European Union embargoes, or whatever targeted restrictions are on people and companies. We may not need to do that, because those things will fall off. But when a government tries to continue to make a point and then not address the real issues, I have a problem there. I really have a problem. But as you said, a discussion for another day.
Okay, Doc. I think if you don't have anything else, we can bring this to an end. So let me just give you an opportunity to close out.
For me, in closing, I think it would be a sad moment if we just have the MDCs led by Mwonzora, and what is coming from government circles that elections be postponed. I think there is no basis for that. This is an opportunity and a time for us to encourage people to vote, to roll out voter education by ZEC, and government should put resources to those institutions which are supposed to run an election. And we should not even be talking about this less than almost 20 months to an important election. And other countries have shown us that it is possible. Look, Zambia, which has a debt of $20 billion, has managed to hold a very successful election. And so for me, it is time to encourage Zimbabweans out there to vote in numbers, and let the government of the day create an environment for its citizens to enjoy that democratic right to choose the leaders of their choice.
Thank you very much, Doc. And I want to leave you again with that slogan by Tendai Biti. I can't just get over it.
Gambagwe, leave us with your song. I love your song more.
Ay, 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 ay.